Cliches. They come in many forms, such as the "it was all a dream" ending, to the cold open, put me to the homage, to the flashbacks, and of course, another name for these is tropes. And that's what this series is going to be about. Welcome to the pilot episode of the Trope Show. The show where I'm going to talk about tropes, obviously. And where better to start than the trope of... So guys, comedy tropes. That's what we're talking about on this edition of the Trope Show. What type of comedy tropes are there? Well, most of the tropes I'm going to go over are from film and TV shows and stuff like that. So the first trope I'm going to talk about with comedy is slapstick. You know, the type of violence you see in comedy films is slapstick violence. The kind of slapping people around and falling over, being clumsy. That's slapstick. Examples of this type of trope, you see a lot of it in Looney Tunes cartoons. Best example there is, really. So, and if you're fans of that, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. And okay, then there's censor beep. Now, that normally would come in under swearing and censorship, but it's not always done to censor out swear words. Oh, no. It is more often than not these days done for comedic purposes, where you can beep out anything and make it sound rude. So, yeah. An example of it being used as such? Well, it happens a lot in animated sitcoms. And a couple of children's shows have dabbled with this. Whether or not the characters are actually saying bad words leaves to the imagination of the viewer. But they have to be saying something under the beep, right? But what are they censoring? Okay. The Simpsons. They would mainly censor for the fun of it. Basically, taking it be an ordinary word and then making it sound worse than it is by putting a beep or a sound effect over it. And then, of course, we've covered catchphrases already, but in sitcoms, it's a character's catchphrase that might drive the whole show. So, let's take, for example, You Plonker from Only Fools and Horses. You hear a lot of that in the show. And of course, the biggest comedy trope there is satire. Now, you have to be very careful when satirizing things, in case you're satirizing an entire group of people that might get offended by it. What's wrong with the world today? Come on. Okay. And basically, to satirize means to lampoon something. And the best example of lampooning in a TV show is South Park. They lampoon everyone and everything. So, if something happens in the world, and Matt Stone and Trey Parker think they can make a comedy piece out of it, you bet it's going in an episode of South Park. Okay. See? Other such shows along these lines would be Family Guy, which is also very satirical of its subject matters, and The Simpsons, of course. And then, of course, there's the jokes or comedic references. Now, based on the depending on the timing of when these jokes appear, they could either be very funny or not very funny at all. But then, if it's comedy, it's got to be funny. But sometimes the fun in the comedy is how unfunny it can be sometimes. So, yeah, there you go. But what are these things like when they are trying to take serious matters seriously, while sprinkling in a bit of their humour? Well, okay. Um, hmm, they can do okay with that, but it's not really their thing. So, but I do have an example of them taking something which was very serious when it first started, as seriously as they could, with a little bit of their humour sprinkled in. South Park with COVID. The pandemic specials, well, the pandemic and vaccination specials took that very seriously, as well as making the whole yeah, because these specials actually aired during the Tegrity Farms era of South Park, as did the post-COVID specials, which I'm glad to say is over now. Okay, and another form of comedy. This may be very popular with kids. Fart jokes. Basically, jokes that are juvenile humour and that end in farts. The best example of this is the only example of it. Basically, Terence and Phillip in South Park are the embodiment of this trope. So. So. And then, of course, I don't think I can end this episode without talking about one of the most popular forms of comedy there is. Stand up. Get it? Stand up? Oh, sorry guys, that was a bad joke. Okay. You know, when you go to see a stand-up show with a comedian on the stage making jokes about everything, that alone in itself has become what this show's all about talking about. Tropes. So, but the type of jokes some stand-up comedians tell might be a bit tasteless depending on the person or people in the audience. Like, say for example, what does Humpty become if his girlfriend leaves him? Dumpty. Ah, okay. Now, I've just demonstrated another form of comedy there, haven't I? Sarcasm. You know, um, when someone says something and you turn around to them and say, "Well, yeah, like I'm so with you there," and blah 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 blah. That is such a good idea. The tone that you would say that in is a sarcastic tone, and sarcastic comedy can be good depending on how well it's executed. And some examples of that from American animated sitcoms. Okay, we have Homer Simpson in South Park, who goes off into sarcastic rants from time to time, so on occasion, and he always ends these sarcastic rants by saying, "Oh, in case you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic." It's like, yeah, Homer, we can tell. Ooh, ooh, look at me, I'm making people happy. Let's go and dance in the very old land of Oz. Like, yeah, let's go. By the way, guys, I was being sarcastic. Okay. I just had to demonstrate that. And then, of course, South Park, the most sarcastic comedy show on the television, with any character being sarcastic, namely Randy Marsh. There's a whole episode about being sarcastic in season 16 and the damage it can cause to your brain. That's because sarcasm is actually supposed to be the lowest form of wit. But where did they come out with that? The lowest form of wit? This is the same show that said fart jokes were the lowest form of comedy. So, what do we believe? So, so Sarcastable was the name of the episode, all about sarcasm, by the way. And seeing how far they can take it. Oh, by the way, guys, I totally didn't come up with comedy tropes as a topic for this episode just so I could be sarcastic with you. No, this was totally a topic I wanted to do. In all seriousness, guys, it was what I planned to do next, so... It's just so easy to be sarcastic, and where I'm doing it to be funny, and in the right episode of this show as well, I hope you find it funny. I really do, because I'm laughing at my own humour, which, if you don't find funny, is an epic fail. Okay. So, guys, that I think will be all on the topic of comedy tropes. If I've missed any out, let me know in the comments below. Next time, I will be talking about... Ooh, animation tropes, because we haven't talked about that yet. So, I'll see you for the next episode then, guys. Until then, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching and have us a magical time. No, guys, I'm not being sarcastic when I say that.